In this video, I will test the Yuka Mini from Mammotion. We will see if it leaves a lot of uncut grass along the edges. We will also check how far the robot can receive a signal with its RTK antenna and see if it is suitable for all gardens. I have planned a slope of about 21 degrees up to 27 to 28 degrees to see how it handles it, given that it is relatively light. We will also take the opportunity to see if it skids in place. Will it leave marks? Will it manage to climb? We will also check how it reacts to objects and if it can detect them properly. Maybe today you are hesitating between the Yuka Mini and the Yuka Classic? Well, we will also do a small comparison, and I will give you my opinion at the end of this video. There is an optional roof that is very practical to protect the Yuka Mini. I will skip the installation part, as it is extremely simple. Honestly, the key points to know are that the RTK antenna must be in an open, unobstructed area. When it mows, the robot will use this antenna to navigate, allowing us to avoid using a perimeter wire in your garden. After that, there are just two cables to install, one to connect to the antenna, and the other the power cable for the robot, which needs to be plugged into an electrical outlet. Then you install the Mammotion app, and we will start by creating a working zone, meaning we will outline the garden. I will highlight the key points to know and speed up this process for you. One great thing is that we can insert a SIM card inside the robot to enable 4G connectivity throughout the garden. A 4G subscription is included for 1 month, allowing you to have a live video feed of the garden and perform automatic updates. We will start by outlining the perimeters, and for this step, we will need a smartphone or tablet with the Mammotion app. Then you will see small joysticks to move the robot forward and backward, as well as turn it left or right. This will work via the phone's Bluetooth. So, we will define a map. We will position ourselves at the garden's edge, and then we will be given two options. The first method is manual mapping. You will do it yourself. And the second is automatic mapping. We will create the first zone. It is important to leave a good 5 centimeters, even 10 centimeters between the wheel and the border. You can adjust it later, but to prevent it from falling over an edge, I prefer to leave some margin. And there you go, you reach your point, and the zone is created. You can then create other zones and link them together using a corridor. This means the robot will, for example, cross a path and stop the blades at that moment. The app is relatively simple. If you have trees, the robot will automatically detect them with its camera, so you don't need to outline them. However, if you have a pool or a flower bed, you can create a restricted zone, meaning an area the robot will not access. Now let's take a look at how the robot is built, and you will see that there are quite a few surprising new features compared to the Yuka Classic. Just for reference, this Yuka is the older version. There is now an improved version, but we will still use this one for comparison. On the Yuka Mini, there is a front light that will allow it to illuminate at night, which is useful if you want it to mow in the dark. It will help it better detect objects and also hedgehogs. There is also a camera for object detection. On the Yuka Mini, there is no bumper, unlike the older model, which had one. When it hit an object or a tree, it would beep and reverse. On this one, detection is done solely with the camera. We will test this later in the video to see if the object detection is reliable. There is also a rain sensor, a battery level indicator, and all the buttons to control it directly on the robot. You can adjust the cutting height from 20 millimeters to 60 millimeters simply by turning a small knob. The small new feature is here at the back, with this battery that can be easily removed and replaced. As you can see, the robot is much smaller compared to the Yuka Classic and can handle surfaces of up to 800 square meters max. There is a 600 square meter version and an 800 square meter version. What is very interesting is its highly competitive price of only 899 euros. The Yuka Mini has a single cutting deck with 5 blades, which can be easily replaced. The Yuka Classic, on the other hand, had 2 cutting decks. Another new feature, here, we have 2 swiveling wheels. I think this will be much better for gardens with bumps and holes. The Yuka Classic only had 1 swiveling wheel, which tended to drag. If your garden has uneven terrain, the Yuka Mini will be more suitable. We will do a test right after this to see how it performs in a difficult garden with holes and bumps. And here we have a nice opening at this level to prevent grass from accumulating. I think this should allow for good evacuation, especially when the grass is wet. And of course, there's a handle here to easily lift and move it. Honestly, compared to this one, it is quite light, which might be a disadvantage. We'll see in a moment because it might skid at this level. We'll find out. However, it does have 2 powered rear wheels with treaded tires, allowing it to handle slopes of up to 45%. In terms of battery life, The Yuka 600 has a runtime of about 55 minutes, while the Yuka 800 has 3 times the battery life, around 150 minutes. This shows a significant difference between the 600 and the 800, especially in terms of battery performance. The Mammotion app is relatively intuitive and easy to use. There are 4 buttons: Mow, Manual, Activity, and Map. You select the area to mow, and of course, you can schedule mowing for a specific day and time. Here it tells me that there are 41 square meters to be mowed, and it will take 73 minutes. You can either start mowing immediately or schedule it. You can also adjust the mowing angle. If you want stripes in one direction or another, you can configure it here. An important option is the obstacle detection mode. I don't recommend turning it off because the robot won't detect any objects or trees, which could be problematic. It's better to stay in standard mode or use the sensitive mode. I'll keep it in a standard mode for this test. Unfortunately, there aren't many more settings at the moment, as Mammotion wanted to keep the app simple and efficient. All right, let's get started. I press Start. It tells me everything is fine. Next. You can't adjust the movement speed yet. Will this be possible in the future? I don't know. You can monitor the robot remotely, which is useful to see how it's performing. Right now, it will mow in a grid pattern, meaning it will mow in one direction and then the other. I hope that in the future, we'll be able to customize this function ourselves because it's a bit frustrating that it's fixed. That being said, this mowing technique delivers excellent quality. I've tested other robots with 3 blades, and I find 3 blades to be a bit limited. Here, having 5 blades ensures a clean cut. Now let's move on to various tests. Before that, just a reminder that you can find the link to the robot in the video description. If this video was useful to you, I'd be very grateful if you use this link to make your purchase. It's an affiliate link, and you can also get a €50 discount on your first order. I also moved the robot about 100 to 200 meters away, with houses and a mountain between the robot and the RTK antenna, to see if it would still receive a signal. Well, the positioning still worked, even with the antenna behind the mountain. If you have a small gravel pathway and wonder if it can cross it, I also tested that. The goal was to connect 2 zones with a corridor, and it performed quite well. I deliberately made it zigzag, and the gravel was about 2 to 3 centimeters deep. The robot mower is rated for slopes of up to 24 degrees or 45%. I wanted to check that, so I tested it in a garden with a steep incline. To measure accurately, I used the Measure app with a ruler. Here we have a nice slope of about 21 degrees. In other areas, when I place my phone, it shows 28 degrees, so theoretically the robot shouldn't be able to handle it. Compared to the Yuka Classic, which I also tested here, the new Yuka Mini adapted quite well. There's a small bump and a hole, and with its 2 swiveling front wheels, it navigated them well. The Yuka Classic could also manage, but since it has only 1 swiveling front wheel, it tended to scrape the chassis slightly underneath. However, when it reached a steeper slope, it went into safety mode and stopped, so I couldn't test it further. I also performed a second test on a 13-degree slope, and it was quite successful. At 13 degrees, the robot handled it perfectly. Sometimes it did skid slightly, but at least in my garden, it didn't damage the lawn. If your garden has too many steep slopes, I'd recommend opting for the Luba 2 or Luba Mini, which can handle slopes up to 80%. I also checked how many centimeters of unmowed grass the robot left along the edges. To do this, I mowed one side as close as possible to the border and left about 5 to 10 centimeters of space near a wooden wall. Once finished, I noticed that along the wooden wall, it left about 30 centimeters of unmowed grass, with some spots reaching up to 35 centimeters. Around trees, it left about 20 to 25 centimeters unmowed, and along the border where I had it mow as close as possible, it left between 15 and 20 centimeters unmowed, which is fairly reasonable. However, I don't really recommend mowing too close to the edges. Since the robot doesn't have a bumper, it could move onto the edge without detecting it. That's what happened during this test, as I had it mowed too close to the border. But nothing serious happened. Now let's move on to obstacle detection. Normally, it should detect a ball without any issues. Yes, it detects it and goes around it. Second test, shoes. Plus, they're green, just like the grass, so they blend in. Let's see how well it does. I place the shoes here, and yes, it detects them perfectly. That's quite impressive. The last object will be a piece of fabric to see how it handles it. I place it directly in front of it, and yes, it avoids it too. That's really impressive. The object detection test was very successful. It detects everything perfectly, which is reassuring. Since the robot doesn't have a bumper, its camera system had to work flawlessly, and it does. What I propose now is a small object detection test, along with this little pig, which is roughly the size of a hedgehog. I'll turn off my light and show you the video feed. It's approaching the object now. Well, it went around it, no trouble detecting it. Okay, so it's fine. It went around the object. Let's check if it sees the return. It's approaching. Yep, it sees it and goes around without any issues. Let's try another test. It detects it again. Before I give my final opinion, let's first review the strengths and weaknesses of the robot according to me. First of all, the mowing quality is really impeccable. I was a little worried with just one cutting deck, but honestly, the result is incredible. Secondly, the price is actually quite affordable compared to the competition. For a wireless robot, you can find it starting at 899 euros. The object detection is also incredible, and that's super important because if you have items lying around or pets outdoors, you can be sure it will detect them. The precision is also great, with the RTK antenna providing centimeter-accurate positioning. The installation is extremely simple. I noticed it was even easier compared to the Yuka version because now we have 4G included. So there's no need to do updates, you just need to plug in the station. It's really simple. It takes only 5 minutes to install. After that, programming the garden depends on the size, but it can take an hour or less. For me, it took around 15 to 20 minutes. You can also adjust the cutting height from 2 centimeters to 6 centimeters, which is always useful. As I mentioned, the 4G is included for 1 year, and after that, it's 50 euros per year. You don't have to take it, it depends on your usage and needs. It could be useful if you're going on vacation, for example, to monitor the robot. It's also perfect for small gardens, up to 800 square meters maximum. We saw that it adapts well to small bumps and holes. Of course, it needs to be fairly light, but honestly, it does well. You can also change the battery yourself, and the warranty has gone from 2 years to 3 years, which is pretty cool. There are still many potential advantages, but I'll stop here and we'll look at the weaknesses and areas for improvement. For now, though I think this will be improved, the app could use a few more settings, especially regarding mowing. Currently, we're forced to use a grid pattern. The robot mows in one direction, then crosses back over the same area. This takes twice as long. The results are excellent, but if you have a large area, mowing can take a long time. I believe this will be improved, and they will likely add a traditional mowing mode in the coming days. Or at least, I hope so. After testing on steeper slopes, about 35% to 40%, I would personally recommend the Luba 2 or Luba Mini. Since it's light, I think it might struggle a bit. However, if you have slopes of 13 degrees to 14 degrees, this could really be the perfect robot. It does leave a bit of unmowed grass along the borders, but it's still fairly acceptable. Compared to the Yuka, there wasn't a huge difference, honestly. Another point that might be bothersome, though it's not an issue for me, is that the cutting height isn't adjustable automatically. It has to be done manually. But it's very simple. One downside, though, is the battery life. It's not a huge problem because the robot will automatically return to charge. Even if it hasn't finished mowing, it recharges and then resumes mowing where it left off. If this is a problem for you, you can opt for the Yuka. It has a 4.5 amp-hour battery, allowing it to mow about 350 square meters per charge, compared to the Yuka Mini 600, which has a 2.4 amp-hour battery and can mow about 80 square meters per charge. The Yuka Mini 800, on the other hand, has 3 times the battery life, with a 6.1 amp-hour capacity. It can mow up to 230 square meters per zone. To give my final opinion, honestly, the robot offers excellent value for money. If it's your first order, you can get it for about 850 euros. I'll add the link in the description. Additionally, Mammotion's customer service has improved significantly since the beginning. It's a brand that listens to its customers. I'm sure they'll make updates to improve the app, particularly for mowing settings. If you want to order it, I genuinely recommend it. All Mammotion robots have been great so far. If you have questions or are unsure about which Mammotion robot to choose, feel free to send me a private message. I'll be happy to help. And if you want to order it, you can get a 50 euro discount on your first order. I'll put the link in the description with all the details. I'll see you next time. Have an excellent day. All right, take care.